I could just write out a list of 100 friends who lost their home.
From wildfires to hurricanes, these Hollywood stars returned home to heartbreak, finding their luxurious mansions reduced to rubble. Join us as we reveal the shocking devastation that left these celebrities reeling. Number 20, Paris Hilton. Paris Hilton lost her Malibu house, among many other houses, in the terrible wildfires that occurred in January 2025. Paris, who is famous for a glamorous life and great sayings, was one of those who experienced the sorrow of losing a loved one as the fires destroyed the region. While it certainly was a valuable piece of real estate, it was more than that. It was her home, a place to live, make memories, and find solace and privacy, far removed from the paparazzi. As soon as the fire started, Paris was not home, but she was following the news carefully. The events unfolded very fast, and Paris understood that her neighborhood was threatened. When her house was on fire, Paris posted her sorrowful feelings to her fans. It was very painful for her to lose the place where she could be herself most of the time. It was a space with deliberately placed artwork, nostalgia, and mementos. Paris then explained how she felt the despair of losing her safe haven after learning of the news. Still, she thought to turn the pain into something productive, so she did try to do so. She contributed her own money to the wildfire cause and encouraged her followers, who are millions, to do so too. For Paris, the tragedy was an opportunity to assist other people who were in the same situation. Another celebrity couple, Leighton Meester and Adam Brody, faced a similar experience during the fires, losing their home in Pacific Palisades. Number 19, Leighton Meester and Adam Brody. Other families who lost their homes in the January 2025 wildfires were Leighton Meester and Adam Brody. Their Pacific Palisades home, where they built a loving home and lived, was burnt to ashes. A house, they never saw it simply as just a dwelling place. It was a place where they spent a lot of time with their daughter and creating a life. The fires spread fast, and with the evacuation orders, they had very little time to pack and take their most valuable items. They just took their daughter, some baby necessities, and a few personal belongings, with no knowing what they would meet on their way back. When the fires were over, the couple was left with a terrible view of the house's ruins. Leighton was able to recount what it felt like to lose the space where the family had developed and prospered. What was painful for Adam was to watch the years of memories evaporate in the blink of an eye. The couple's own loss was not what they dwelled on. They were alive, and so was their child. Number 18, Billy Crystal. Another famous personality who lost his home in the January 2025 wildfires was Billy Crystal, the famous comedian and actor, starring in When Harry Met Sally, The City Slickers, etc. The house that Billy had been living in since 1979 was reduced to ashes. This was not just any house. It was a house that was full of more than 40 years of life. It was where he built his family, achieved so many accomplishments, and lived a normal life away from the limelight. Billy had always boasted about how much this house was so special to him. It was a sign of permanency in an environment that was producing constant innovations. From the times when the family gathered for dinner to when his children were growing up, everything had happened there. That is why when the fires reached the Pacific Palisades, the loss of his home was a big deal. The news hit Billy hard. He stated that although he and his family were alive, it was painful to lose a house that one had lived in for over 40 years. The house is no longer just an object. There were the photos, the trinkets, the memories of an amazing career. There was a story in even the chair he preferred to sit in, of the view of his backyard. Now, while Billy dealt with the heartbreak of losing his home, another Hollywood legend, Mel Gibson, also faced the devastating reality of watching his beloved Malibu house burn. Number 17, Mel Gibson. Other celebrities who lost their homes in the 2025 wildfires included Mel Gibson, the actor and filmmaker who directed and starred in Braveheart and the Lethal Weapon movies. It was a beautiful house in Malibu too, which he owned for several years, and it was totally burnt down. To Mel, it was not just the house that was a home, but it was his sanctuary from Hollywood VIP culture and ability to commune with nature. Mel was away from his home when the fire started and began moving closer to Malibu. He was in Austin, Texas for an interview when he learned about it. The prospect of losing the home was a problem, but there was not much that could be done. He could only wait and listen to the news and pray that it would be all right. Unfortunately, the fire engulfed his property, hence destroying almost everything that was in the compound. What made it worse for Mel was the fact that the house was formerly a comfort zone for him. That is where he was with his family, wrote scripts, and came up with ideas for his projects in the arts. It was like leaving a part of him when he lost it. Curious how Milo handled losing his personal haven? Well, let's take a closer look. Number 16, Milo Ventimiglia. Milo Ventimiglia, the star of This Is Us and Gilmore Girls, experienced a heartbreaking loss during the January 2025 wildfires. His home in Pacific Palisades, a place where he had spent years building a life, was completely destroyed. Milo, known for his calm and collected demeanor, shared how overwhelming it was to see the house that he had loved so much reduced to ashes. For Milo, this wasn't just a house. It was a place of peace, a retreat from the demands of Hollywood. Whether he was working on a script, hosting friends, or simply relaxing with his dogs, his home was his sanctuary. He had designed it with care, choosing every detail to reflect his style and personality. Losing it meant saying goodbye to more than just walls and furniture. It meant losing a part of himself. When the fire started spreading, Milo had just returned from filming. Like many others in the area, he had little time to prepare. He grabbed a few essentials, made sure his pets were safe, and left, not knowing if he'd ever see his home again. Unfortunately, the fire reached his neighborhood quickly, and by the time it was over, there was nothing left. Number 15, Anna Faris. The house bunny and mum star Anna Faris also had a taste of heartache as the wildfires reduced her eco-friendly house to ashes. The house was something she had worked on with passion. It wasn't just a house, it was a house that she wanted to be in sync with her principles of sustainable living. Anna's house was also built to be sustainable with solar power, energy-efficient appliances, and a garden that she planted herself. She also mentioned time and time again the joy she had in coming up with a home that was not only beautiful, but was also eco-friendly. When the fires got to her area, Anna had no option but to flee from the house that she had struggled to put up. It was a big blow to her when her home was destroyed. Anna told us how painful it was for her to lose a place that she cared so much about, and that represented her attempts to live a responsible life. Still, Anna was concerned with the well-being of her family, and thus her thoughts did not shift to the loss. Knowing that her only child, Jack, was out of danger gave her courage. How did Eugene and his family cope with losing such a meaningful space? Well, let's discover his story. Number 14, Eugene Levy. Schitt's Creek Eugene Levy and other actors, including many comedians, had their houses burnt down during the January 2025 wildfires. Eugene's Pacific Palisades home, which had many family memories and his own accomplishments in it, was burnt down in the fire. To Eugene, who is famous for humor and kindness, the destruction of his house was a painful experience. The house that Eugene owned was not just a house, but a house that depicted his story. It was a place where he spent his happiest moments with his family, friends, and the moments quietly away from the glare of public eye. The interior and exterior design of the home reflected Eugene's passion for traditional architecture and comfortable, functional rooms. It was the kind of place where one could paint many happy scenes of life in it. When the wildfires began, Eugene and his family had to leave, and they had to do it fast. As with many others in the region, they were given very little time to gather their most valuable possessions. It is a very strange and very scary feeling to be leaving a place that one has always felt so protected in. Sadly, the fire extended to Eugene's property, and when the fire was put out, well, there was nothing at all left. The next story will leave you stunned. It's about an iconic actor who lost it all but found hope in the ashes. Number 13, John Goodman. John Goodman, who starred in such popular television series as Roseanne and such movies as The Big Lebowski, also lost his Pacific Palisades house to the fires of January 2025. It was a home that John had owned for many years, and this was a place of comfort and happiness for John and his family. The Pacific Palisades house was not just a home for John. It was the stability in a job that was often full of traveling and shifting from one place to another. The house had a rather comfortable and cozy feeling to it, kind of reminiscent of the man itself, John, and this was a house where the actor could let his hair down and be himself. John and his family did not waste much time when the evacuation orders were given. They had to leave most of their belongings behind. The wildfires spread quickly, and it was impossible to prevent the fires from burning down people's homes. When John got back to his property, the fire had burnt down the house to the ground. Number 12, Ricki Lake. Ricki Lake, the former talk show host and actress, experienced an incredible heartbreak during the January 2025 wildfires when her Malibu dream house was destroyed. For Ricki, this home wasn't just a place to live, it was her sanctuary, a symbol of peace, healing, and the future she'd worked so hard to build. The house was a labor of love for Ricki. It had beautiful views of the ocean, cozy corners where she could relax with her family and friends, and a garden that she loved to tend to. Ricki called it her heaven on earth, and it's easy to see why. For Ricki, this home represented a fresh start after some difficult chapters in her life, including personal struggles and loss. It was the place where she felt safe and grounded. After the flames subsided, Ricki returned to find her home reduced to ashes. It was an emotional moment, one that she later described as heart-shattering. And the next story takes things to an even more heartbreaking level. You won't believe what one star had to leave behind. Number 11, Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges, the famous actor from movies such as The Big Lebowski and Crazy Heart, had his Malibu house burned to ashes in the January 2025 fire. For Jeff, this was a home where he and his wife Susan created a life that was full of love, family, and creativity over the years. The house was not just a home for Jeff, it was an extension of his personality and an expression of his artistic side. It was decorated with photographs of happy family times, him strumming his guitar, and just peaceful times watching the sunset over the Malibu coast. Jeff often mentioned how much he enjoyed living in his house and had no noise from the exciting and busy Hollywood. When the fire started to approach Malibu, Jeff and Susan had no time to pack and leave. They were able to rescue a couple of things that were dear to them, some of Jeff's guitars among them. Nevertheless, the fire spread very fast, and there was no way to protect the property. When they got back, their dear home was no longer there. It had been destroyed. Jeff is a very composed and positive person, and he handled the loss in the most positive way possible. Jeff said that he was actually sad about losing such a big part of his life, but he was more than thankful that his family was safe. Jeff also took the time to thank the firefighters and first responders who worked so hard 24/7 to fight the fires. What she held on to through the tragedy will surprise you. The next story only gets more shocking. Number 10, Jennifer Grey. Actress Jennifer Grey, who played the role of Baby in Dirty Dancing, struggled with a harrowing loss as her much-valued home was burnt in a January 2025 wildfire. Try to imagine a place where you keep all your fondest memories, a place that makes you feel most secure. Well, it's difficult to even fathom losing it all at once, isn't it? For Jennifer, her home wasn't just a house where she lived, but it was a part of her heart. Jennifer's home was decorated with items that spoke of her personality. She was warm and artistic, and this home reflected that. This is where she entertained her family and friends, laughed, and lived her life away from the public eye. Jennifer had not much time to pack when the wildfires engulfed the neighborhood where she lived. She took what she could, documents, photographs, and toiletries, and simply left, praying that the fire would not reach her house. However, the fire spread faster, and within no time, Jennifer's house was but just property of ash. When she got back to her property after the fire, she said it was like being in a movie, and it was devastating. The loss was not only of the building, it was the loss of everything that had ever happened in her home, every corner of it. Now, let's talk about another Hollywood legend, Anthony Hopkins, who also faced the destruction of his home, but found a way to rise above it. Number 9, Anthony Hopkins. Anthony Hopkins, the iconic star of The Silence of the Lambs, experienced his own devastating loss when his $6 million Malibu home was destroyed in the wildfires. Think about this, a home you've filled with art, creativity, and love suddenly taken away. For Anthony, his house wasn't just a luxury, it was his haven. Anthony's Malibu retreat was a place of inspiration. Known for his love of painting and music, he often shared how much he enjoyed creating art in the peace and beauty of his home. The walls were lined with his own paintings, and every corner of the house reflected his personality and artistic vision. It was a space where he felt grounded and inspired. When the fires began to close in, Anthony and his wife Stella had to act fast. They evacuated with a few personal belongings, knowing there wasn't much else they could do. The fire moved too quickly to spare their property. When it was safe to return, they found their beloved home reduced to rubble. Number 8, Bella Hadid. Bella Hadid, the supermodel and style icon, faced an emotional loss during the January 2025 wildfires when her childhood home was destroyed. For Bella, this wasn't just a house, it was a place where she grew up, laughed, cried, and made countless memories with her family. Losing it was like losing a piece of her past. The home, located in the beautiful hills of Malibu, held special meaning for Bella and her siblings, including her equally famous sister, Gigi Hadid. It was where they spent lazy weekends, celebrated holidays, and shared family meals together. Bella often spoke about how much she loved the house, not because of its luxury, but because it was filled with love and warmth. It was a place that she felt safe, no matter how busy or chaotic life became. When the wildfires swept through the area, Bella's family had to evacuate quickly. They were heartbroken knowing that their beloved home might not survive. Once the fires were under control, the news was devastating. The house was completely gone. Bella shared her grief with her followers on social media, posting heartfelt messages about what the home meant to her. The next story proves that even comedy icons can't escape tragedy. It's a heartbreaking turn for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Number 7, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the Emmy-winning actress known for her roles in Veep and Seinfeld, also suffered a heartbreaking loss during the January 2025 wildfires. Her residence, a home she had cherished for years, was completely destroyed. For Julia, this house wasn't just a place to live, though. It was a reflection of the life that she had built with her family. The home, nestled in the scenic Pacific Palisades area, was filled with personal touches that showcased Julia's love for art, humor, and family. It was a place where she could relax and recharge, away from the demands of her high-profile career. Julia often mentioned how much she valued having a space where she could just be herself, surrounded by the people she loved the most. When the wildfires began threatening her neighborhood, Julia and her family had to evacuate quickly. They left with only the essentials, knowing there was a chance they might not return to the same home. Unfortunately, the fire moved fast, and their fears became reality. The house was destroyed, leaving behind nothing but ashes. But what Miles Teller lost next will leave you speechless. Number 6, Miles Teller. Miles Teller, the star of Top Gun, Maverick, and Whiplash, faced a devastating loss when the January 2025 wildfires destroyed his Pacific Palisades home. For Miles and his wife, Keely Sperry, this wasn't just a house, it was their haven, the place where they had worked so hard to create together. Losing it was a heartbreaking experience for both of them. The home was a reflection of their shared journey together, filled with mementos from their travels, personal touches, and spaces designed for relaxation and creativity. Miles often talked about how much he loved being home after long shoots, where he could just unwind, spend quality time with Kaylee, and recharge. It was a place of laughter, comfort, and love. When the wildfires began approaching their neighborhood, Miles and Kaylee had to make the tough decision to evacuate quickly. They grabbed a few essentials, including their wedding photos and some sentimental items, and left, not knowing if they would ever see their home again. Sadly, the fire reached their property and destroyed it completely. Miles shared his feelings on social media, expressing both heartbreak and gratitude. He spoke about how surreal it felt to lose everything, but also acknowledged that what truly mattered most was their safety. Homes can be rebuilt, he said, but you cannot replace lives. Miles also took the opportunity to thank firefighters and first responders who worked tirelessly to contain the fires. While Miles and Kaylee navigated their loss, another famous couple, Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt, also faced the devastating destruction of their home. Number 5. Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt. Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt, the reality TV stars from the hills, experienced a crushing loss when their home was destroyed in the January 2025 wildfires. For the couple, this wasn't just a house. It was where they were raising their young son Gunnar and creating a life as a family. Losing it was an emotional and overwhelming experience. Heidi and Spencer had poured so much love into their home. It was a blend of comfort and personality, filled with memories of Gunnar's milestones, family gatherings, and moments of joy. The couple had shared glimpses of their home life with fans, showcasing how much they valued the space that they had created together. And when the fire spread towards their area, Heidi and Spencer had little time to act. They packed up quickly, taking essentials for Gunnar and a few treasured belongings, then evacuated to safety. Like so many others in their community, they hoped for the best, but prepared for the worst. Sadly, the fire consumed their house, leaving behind only ashes. Heidi later spoke about the emotional toll of losing their home. She described the heartbreak of seeing their family's safe haven destroyed, but emphasized her gratitude for their safety. For Spencer, the loss was deeply personal, as he had spent years working on their home and making it a place where they could thrive as a family. The next story reveals the destruction of a home tied to one family's entire history. Number 4. Zoe and Emily Deschanel. Zoe and Emily Deschanel, the talented sisters known for their roles in New Girl and Bones, faced a heartbreaking loss when their family home was destroyed in the January 2025 wildfires. This wasn't just a house for them, it was the place where their childhood memories were made, where they grew up together, and where they always felt connected, no matter how far their careers took them. The Deschanel family home was a beautiful and cozy space filled with personality and warmth. It was where Zoe and Emily spent their early years playing, laughing, and dreaming about the future. As adults, the sisters still visited often, cherishing the comfort and familiarity that the house provided. It wasn't just a physical place, it was a symbol of their bond and the love their family shared. When the wildfires began threatening the area, the family had to evacuate quickly. There was little time to pack, and the fear of losing the house was overwhelming. Unfortunately, the fire moved rapidly, and by the time it was over, their family home was gone. Zoe and Emily expressed their grief publicly, sharing how devastating it was to lose the place that held so many memories for them. Zoe, known for her quirky and upbeat personality, talked about how difficult it was to see a space so full of life simply reduced to ashes. Emily, the more reserved of the two, shared her gratitude for the safety of their family and emphasized the importance of staying strong during tough times. What's next is the destruction of a couple's first home together, a heartbreaking loss you won't forget. Number 3. Bryan Greenberg and Jamie Chung. Bryan Greenberg, known for One Tree Hill, and his wife Jamie Chung, a star of The Gifted, faced their own tragedy when their residence was destroyed in the January 2025 wildfires. For Bryan and Jamie, this wasn't just a house. It was the first home they had built together as a married couple, making the loss even more personal. Their home was a reflection of their shared journey together. It was stylish, modern, and filled with pieces of their life together, from wedding photos to keepsakes from their travels. They had worked hard to create a space where they could relax, entertain friends, and dream about their future. Losing it felt like losing a part of their story. When evacuation orders were issued, Bryan and Jamie acted quickly, gathering essentials and ensuring their pets were safe. They left with heavy hearts, unsure of what they would return to. Sadly, the fire destroyed their property, leaving behind only ashes. The couple shared their heartbreak on social media, expressing their sadness but also their gratitude for being safe. Jamie talked about how hard it was to lose the home that they had poured so much love into, but she emphasized that their safety and the safety of their loved ones came first. Bryan echoed her sentiments, thanking firefighters and first responders for their bravery and dedication. But what happened to Mark Hamill's beloved memorabilia will shock you. Number 2, Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, the legendary actor best known for playing Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, faced a heartbreaking loss when his Malibu home was destroyed during the January 2025 wildfires. For Mark and his family, this wasn't just a house. It was a place of peace and creativity, a retreat from the chaos of Hollywood, and a hub of countless family memories. The home, perched on a beautiful hillside with breathtaking ocean views, was where Mark loved to spend time with his wife, Mary Lou, and their children. It was a space filled with personal touches, like memorabilia from his iconic career, family photos, and even a room dedicated to his passion for voice acting. For Mark, this house represented decades of hard work and the love he shared with his family. When the wildfires began closing in, Mark and his family had to act quickly. They packed up and evacuated to safety. Despite their hopes, the fire moved too fast, and by the time it reached their home, there was nothing that they could do to save it. Mark later shared his feelings on social media, expressing gratitude for his family's safety while mourning the loss of a place that meant so much to them. He thanked the firefighters and first responders who worked tirelessly during the disaster and encouraged his fans to support relief efforts. True to his optimistic nature, Mark reminded everyone that even in loss, there is an opportunity to rebuild and move forward. The next loss takes us to an actor whose home was the foundation of his creativity. It's truly devastating. Number 1, John C. Reilly. John C. Reilly, the versatile actor known for Step Brothers and Chicago, lost his Altadena home in the January 2025 wildfires. For John, this house wasn't just a place to live, though. It was a space where he could unwind, be himself, and focus on his passion for music and acting. The Altadena house had a rustic charm, sitting at the edge of the forest with views that inspired much of John's creative work. It was where he practiced music, wrote scripts, and spent quality time with his family. The house reflected John's grounded and easygoing personality, a place where he could disconnect from the fast-paced world of Hollywood. When the fires threatened Altadena, John and his family evacuated, taking only the essentials and a few sentimental items. Despite their best efforts to prepare for the worst, the flames overtook their home, leaving nothing but ashes behind. Returning to the property was a heartbreaking experience for John, who described the loss as surreal and humbling. Like Mark Hamill, John focused on gratitude amidst the devastation. He was thankful that his family was safe and used his voice to advocate for fire prevention and relief efforts. John also emphasized the importance of supporting firefighters and first responders who worked around the clock to protect lives and property. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more stories about Hollywood's biggest stars. See you next time.